What is the best thing that has ever happened to you between 3 am to 5 am? Alone on a business trip in Hong Kong, my sleep was screwed up due to the time zone shift and I'd spent the evening attempting to compensate with alcohol. Returning to the hotel at 3 am, I'm still not sleepy and I notice next door to the hotel is one of those little HK bars up on the 3rd or 4th floor, so I decide to go up for a nightcap. It's dark and smoky with a few businessmen in groups and alone hunched over their drinks. I was the only foreigner in the bar and nobody even looked up when I came in. I ordered a drink and wandered over to the vacant karaoke machine. As an introvert, the mere presence of a karaoke machine is enough to keep me outside of a party. But secretly I've always wanted to try it. So I think, here I am on the far side of the earth 1,000 miles from anyone who knows me. Why not? The waiter was at my elbow in an instant. He showed me the English language songs. Unfortunately, a few weeks prior, I had been to a party where some girls had done a beautiful, spontaneous rendition of ABBA's Dancing Queen, so for some reason I thought I could sing that. Then the waiter said I had to pick a second song, so I chose Strangers in the Night. I thought it would be like when you sing along with the radio in your car but suddenly the song is going and there are no vocals. Then I start singing about an octave above my range. It was brutal. As I muscled through Strangers, my face was bathed in sweat. Finally it ended. I slumped into my chair vowing never to karaoke again. All this time, not one person in the bar even looked in my direction. Then slowly one young guy, drunk with his necktie loose and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, swung his chair around and gave me a slow clap. "Just enjoy," he said. "Just enjoy." I think about that phrase all the time when I take myself too seriously. I've even done karaoke again. Well done, sir. Never stop carrying the okie. I went to a donut shop in my town. They open at 4 and always run out of good donuts by the time I'm awake. So I finally got try one. It was pretty good. Reminds me, I've gotta try and get up early one of these days to get a bucket of donuts. A place near me sells an entire bucket of yesterday's donuts for $5. Fiance and I love licking off the frosting and filling, then tossing the rest. One Saturday night during my freshman year in college, I was up a little later than usual. I can't remember if I had just gotten back from a party or what, but I was out in the hall of my dorm building just before 3 am when I saw one of the other guys who lived on the floor. He was an extremely nice guy and we were buddies, but not exactly close friends. I asked him where he was going, and he said he did a show on the college radio station 3-5 am every Sunday morning. Then he asked me if I wanted to go with him. Being the adventurous 19-year-old guy that I was, I decided to go for it. I had never even been in a radio station before, so the whole experience was new to me. The studio was really interesting. We had a couple of guest DJs come in at times, and we got to play whatever music we wanted. We even had a few people call in to talk to us, which I hadn't expected at that hour. The whole experience was so unique and enjoyable for me that it's really stuck in my memory. Also, that dude and I went on to become very good friends, and even now, more than 12 years later, we're still very good friends. I'd say that night was one of the key moments that turned a buddy into a best friend. Other than fricking, that's probably the best thing to ever happen to me from 3-5 am. Went to downtown, Victoria, BC, Canada, and yes, it is safe to roam in downtown at that time, and got a whole pizza for $6. Took the pizza to the Inner Harbor, 2 blocks away, sat there, enjoyed the view and ate my pizza. My then boyfriend and I came back from the New Year's party we were at. We lit a bunch of candles, tuned out the lights and sat on the couch talking for 2 hours about everything. On a whim, he turns to me and asks, "Will you be my wife?" Getting dragged to a house party I didn't want to be at. Ended up meeting an old co-worker, good friend who I crushed on for a few years while we worked retail together but never made a move. Turned out she felt the same. Been together for 3 years and change now. Easily the best night of my life so far. I simply love being outside around 4-5 am. Just me, the streets, and the weird ass dude following me. Just pretend I'm not here. I write all my English assignments at that time. I'm philosophical when I'm tired, and my prof seems to love my unique style of thinking. I did this too, but my profs just gave me C's and said started strong, but more and more flimsy the further you go. He's obviously just not on tired me's intellectual level. My older brother and I often pulled all-nighters and watched movies all night long and just generally made memories that we are sure to take for granted. One of these occasions was a chilly December night and my brother and I were laying listening to music and simply enjoying the moment. This is Texas, so it rarely gets too cold, but my brother decides to go get a blanket. When he returns he utters the words, "Look outside." I stick my head out the front door and am awed by what I see. Snow, untouched, pristine, white. A fresh blanket of snow was covering everything in sight. Keep in mind, this is a city in Texas where it snows maybe once or twice a year or sometimes not at all. And on the rare occasions it does snow there is maybe 1 or 2 inches of snow. But on this night, there was several inches of snow. So much so that my foot sank into the ground as I took my first step outside into this strange frozen utopia. My brother and I simply glance at one another and without saying a word we dart outside. It felt like we had been bestowed the highest privilege to be the ones to make the first marks upon these mounds of snow. I'll never forget the euphoria and just pure happiness diving into the snow and doing somersaults so late at night. It was as if the snow was meant for us and only us. PayPal was down for maintenance, thereby preventing drunk buying on eBay. Drunk shopping is the worst best. So many great sunrises and such a terrible hit to my bank account. I stumbled upon a secret jazz theater performance done by amazing musicians and a troupe of belly dancers while running through the woods with my best friends. For serious though, I'm gonna need to hear the story to this. I was born. Big day for me. Ironically, it was your shortest day so far. Dunno about best, but I'll share my most memorable experience. I was 10 years old and it was 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. For some reason my mom was wide awake and bored, so she woke me up and asked if I wanted to go eat at the local 24-hour truck stop diner. I agree, and we enjoy an early breakfast in a mostly empty restaurant. It's probably 3:30 a.m. when we get home, and as we're pulling into the driveway we see movement. Mom turns off the car and the headlights, and on our back steps we see 2 large, fat raccoons just loitering there. We sit and watch them for about a minute until they shuffle off, destroying Gandhi's hateful nuke-loving button sieve. So I'm guessing you started saying one more turn around 11. 21st birthday in Vegas. Realized my wallet was missing, so went and backtracked, not really expecting to find it. Some bum had it and stopped me. He said something along the lines of, "Dang, I can't believe I am doing this, but happy birthday. I saw you drop it, but when I saw it was your id and birthday I decided to wait a while for you to come back. You're lucky." I was just about to leave and he busted up laughing, walking away. It had credit cards and like $250 cash, and he didn't even touch it. Ended up giving the guy the $50 just out of sheer drunken happiness that I had it back. Hahaha. Found a little pup in the middle of the road. Took her home with me and now I will never be sad again. Sleep. My dad was away at school but was coming home that afternoon. I couldn't sleep. If I get too excited, I don't sleep. So I went out into the living room around 3 a.m. to watch TV. My mom had the same idea. I thought I was going to get in trouble for getting out of bed. I'd done it before, but she was just like, "Wanna go to Walmart with me?" Frick yeah, I wanna go to Walmart at 3 in the morning. We went and bought art supplies so my brothers and I could make signs to welcome our dad home. And we had Thanksgiving at our house last year and somehow my aunt and uncle were still there, hanging. Around 2 a.m. everyone got hungry, so my aunt and I made a Mickey D's run and got a frick ton of fries and burgers. She's still my favorite aunt. I was on a cruise ship with some friends I had made when we decided to order room service at 3 a.m. 30 minutes later, 6 cheeseburgers, a bucket of chicken tenders, 3 large fries and a glass of chocolate milk are delivered to our door. Greatest meal ever. I had a pretty strict upbringing growing up. Had to be home before the sun goes down, in bed by 10 p.m. Basically never allowed to sleep over at friends' houses. You know the deal. My best friend lived down the street from me, and his family was just as strict as mine. One night when I was 13, I heard about a spectacular meteor shower that was going to happen at night, with the best visibility around 4 a.m. It was a school night, so I lost hope of seeing it before I could even formulate a plan of convincing my parents to let me stay up and go watch it outside. I figured I could watch it outside my window somehow, even though my view was almost completely blocked by our roofing structure. I thought I might as well ask my parents even though I knew what the answer would be. Instead of hearing that no word I had grown up with, remarkably my parents said I could not only get up and watch it, but go out to our backyard for better viewing, as long as I went to bed earlier. I was ecstatic and besides myself. I called my friend and told him the news and his first thought was to immediately run to his parents and ask them. They said no, but after some convincing, I got my parents to call us and set up a little get together. I went to bed at 9 that night but barely slept a minute because I was so excited. A little bit past 3 am, my friend came over with his dad, and me and my dad took them out to our backyard to watch the show. It was as spectacular as I had imagined it would be. But what made this night so amazing was just being awake and outside at a time that was so foreign to me. It was the first time I had been outside so late, and it felt like a completely new world that I had only heard about or watched on TV, but never gotten a chance to actually witness. Nighttime was strictly adult world to me, and I felt like I had snuck into a forbidden paradise. I've since had many awesome nights out, and being a full-grown adult I can do whatever the frick I want at 3 am to my own choosing, but that first night will always be special. I was expecting sneaking out or hiding under the blankets fighting to stay awake, you know, classic kids stuff. But no, this is wonderful and amazing. Not only did you got to see it with your dad and your best friend and they allowed it and we're happy to share it with you. They might have been strict but damn it they loved you. We had been at a party until 3:30ish. We arrived at the station a little past 4 am to see that the next train to our hometown was past 5 am. It was summer, and it was raining. The building where you could wait for the trains and buses was closed as it is during the nights. I was tired, in that blissful way that can only be caused by a good alcohol buzz. No one else was at the station, except for a man sleeping on a bench and we didn't pay much notice to him. She asked me if we could listen to music, and I found my iPod. We each took an earbud and had to stand really close, so they wouldn't fall out. And before I knew what was happening, we started dancing. Just slowly dancing around on the station in the rain, really close to each other. And that's when we had our first kiss. I saw Batman getting off in my yard at 3:22 am on the third Tuesday of the month. It was amazing. Nothing fancy. Dreamed of my mom, who is dead, and it was so unspeakably wonderful to see her again and tell her that I love her. I broke up with an abusive girlfriend. Good for you, man. This just happened tonight. Well, last night. It's 3:30 am right now where I am. I have really bad social anxiety that I use to manage with excessive alcohol use. Well, I have been 9 months sober now and really struggling to enjoy spending time with friends for the whole time I have been sober. Anyway, tonight I spent all night at a gathering of close mates and just spent the whole time laughing and joking and talking. Pretty normal stuff for most people but an amazing feeling for me. So cut to me getting home, sticking on Spotify and browsing Reddit, feeling genuinely happy for a change. When I unwrapped a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Red from under the Christmas tree. I was flirting with a girl while tripping on mushrooms, shook hands when we exchanged names and without a word to each other, instead of letting go of each other's hand we started to have a thumb war. So I'm sitting at my desk, doing nothing on the computer as usual, and I look outside and see a car drive down the street, backwards, all the way down about a mile of road. I usually go to bed early. My first child was born at 3:12 am and almost died from respiratory failure at 4:30 am, but lived. It was my 21st birthday. He's now 24, engaged, and I get to work with him every day. Jim Lovell, Bob Anders, and Frank Borman completed their lunar orbit insertion burn to become the first humans to orbit the moon. It may have been closer to 2 am but still rather significant. My first kiss. It was about 3 months ago and it was perfect. First BJ. Got a team in solo queue that wasn't toxic at all. They were probably all high or something. That's amazing. 4:51 am. Daughter was born. 4:59 am. Best cheeseburger ever. That got dark fast. Well, I suppose if you don't name it. Woke up on the shitter with crap in the toilet. 5 minutes before this I was pee drunk and blacked out after opening the door. I love my subconscious. I wish I had your subconscious. Mine usually finds it amusing to get naked and sleep anywhere except my bed. The first time I was allowed to stay up all night, I was maybe 7 years old. My parents had taken me to visit our relatives in Sweden. It was midsummer, so the sun had set around midnight and already started to rise again. We were all sitting around on my uncle's dock and taking turns using the sauna and jumping into the water. I'll go farther to add that I'd been our pet by a babysitter that past fall and life was pretty upside down for me. I felt real peace that night. Thanks for helping me remember. It was late at the Ghent festival. A friend and me were wandering the streets after a long night of having fun and walked by a restaurant. A guy just walked up from one of the tables laughing and started playing a tune on a piano. Since we had nothing better to do, we just sat down to listen. Best decision ever. A second guest from the table took 2 spoons and joined the first with his tune and it sounded pretty good. Not even a minute later a guy, passing like we were, sat down next to us and took out a saxophone and just joined in. A few minutes after that some dude with a guitar completed this at random orchestra jam session. They played till dawn. We all chipped in for drinks and it was a great time. Once, when I used to live in Austin, Texas, I was very bored at 3 a.m. and decided to post on a local social group on Facebook to see if anyone wanted to hang out. Soon after, a stranger posted saying they'd like to meet me at a park nearby. This park was heavily populated during the day and there are generally a constant supply of joggers out at night, so I decided it's a good place. I packed a small bag of supplies and walked for about 30 minutes. When I got there, I noticed a lady who was old enough to be my mom, but not old by any standard, sitting on top of a hill, which is where she said she'd be. We talked awkwardly for about an hour, and eventually warmed up to each other. After a long while of conversation, she offered me a ride home and I accepted. When we arrived, my grandma, who I was living with at the time, had just woken up. She saw me walk in the front door and looked confused, but even more so when the lady walked in behind me. My grandma and the lady met each other for a while and they became acquainted. Ever since then, she's been a great friend to me, and I'm really glad to have met her. Total existential awareness. I levitated. Well, this summer I went to this camp called Boys State. The camp was about learning how to run a mock government for a week. It sounds like it would be fun, but from the late night conventions to the speeches and budgeting it got pretty intense fast. The guys at the camp were so reserved at first, but towards the end we became really great friends. On the last night we snuck in Taco Bell at 3 a.m. and sat and ate while talking about each other's lives and futures. Although I haven't seen any of those guys since, and the Taco Bell caused my bowels to unleash the next morning, I will always remember that night. As a recent father, I'm going to have to say sleep. Got drunk, and my buddy asked if I wanted to screw around with his guitar at a small house party. Dana was there. I proceeded to play a number of songs, and everyone there sang along with me. It was pretty awesome. Oh Dana, she makes those parties. You've been visited by the good sleep capybara. Upvote within the next 5 seconds and you will be blessed with cozy and restful sleeps. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.